Hello and welcome to another episode of Humans in 5.
We've talked a bit about the methods we use to estimate age, biological sex, and lifestyle from skeletons as biological anthropologists. These methods are used by experienced and new researchers alike, but before any of that can start, researchers have to be granted access to human skeletons. Some of these may come from archaeological sites, but others are curated in skeletal collections.
One of the primary questions I get asked at public science events is, where do skeletons in these collections come from? We thought we'd answer that question in today's episode and give you some background on just how people's skeletons get to be in museums and universities all around the world.
As we've mentioned in a few different episodes, the history of studying skeletons is closely tied to the history of anatomy and medicine. Understanding how the human body works was only possible with scholars carefully examining human bodies both inside and out. The key point here is whose bodies were being carefully examined.
Anatomists working between the 14th to 19th centuries had to resort to really unethical means of accessing human bodies for their studies. Religious beliefs prevented people from donating their bodies to scientific research, so anatomists often paid grave robbers to provide them with human bodies. The graves that were the most easily accessible belonged to people with little money and support.
The same pattern played out with the earliest collections of human skeletons. Many skeletons were initially collected by medical scholars in university anatomy departments before the establishment of anthropology departments. In addition, the bodies of men and women who died in prison or who did not have any family members who could collect their bodies were included in these collections.
Whilst this was happening, European colonial powers were expanding across the world. They didn't treat the communities they came into contact with as their equals, including in death. People from colonized nations were treated as curiosities, and their bodies were taken to European universities to be studied.
And it wasn't just the bodies of people who were coming from different parts of the world that were prized. Some anatomists became obsessed with collecting the bodies of particular people. John Hunter, an English anatomist living in the 1700s, allegedly paid for the body of Charles Byrne because he was so intent on having his skeleton as a part of his anatomical collection. Charles Byrne, known as the Irish Giant, had a hormonal condition that resulted in his being very tall, and was therefore a particularly interesting person for Hunter.
Many of the skeletons in major collections around the world today came to be there as a result of colonialism and pretty shady practices to collect bodies for research. In the 20th century, it started to become more common for people to donate their bodies to scientific research, including their skeletons to collections.
When someone decides to donate their body to scientific research, they provide a lot of information about their health and lifestyle. This is extremely valuable information as it provides a clear basis to work from when it comes to including their skeletons in different analyses.
This isn't to say that the donation process is the same or easy in every university or indeed every country. In fact, donating your body to taphonomic research facilities, like the one at the University of Knoxville, Tennessee, is not that straightforward. Donation depends on the legal framework at the national and regional level and managing security and high ethical standards for any research carried out at these institutions.
Ultimately, studying human skeletons is a privilege, and anybody who decides to donate their body to research is giving a gift. Skeletons need to be properly curated and cared for in collections, sometimes even with limited economic resources. The skeletons we use for research come from many parts of the world and time periods, but must always be treated with respect.
We hope today's episode has taught you a bit about where the skeletons in the closet come from, and we'll see you next time on Humans in 5.
And don't forget to subscribe!